Thank you for tuning in to TalkWad.com, the world's fastest growing internet radio network. Please check out all the other great shows on www.talkwad.com.
What if your customers are trying to find your business online, but instead of finding you, they find your competitors? Now, more than ever, it's time to make sure you have the right SEO to make your business stand out online. Welcome to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts, putting your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers who are looking for you right now. Extreme Marketing Concepts, helping you drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition. And now, here's Terry.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Go Mind Your Business. My name is Terry Bork with Extreme Marketing Concepts, here for another show with you down at the TalkWad Network. My very special guest today is none other than Jimmy Leo, the Creativity Concierge. Welcome, Jimmy, to our program today.
Well, thank you, Terry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I know that we're going to learn so much from you today in the creativity area and how you help other people, both personally and professionally. So I'm really looking forward to our program today.
Thanks.
Before we begin, let me just share with our audience a little bit about you, what you do. And then we'll get going. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, great. So again, my guest today is Jimmy Leo, the Creativity Concierge. Jimmy resides in Tampa Bay, Florida with his wife and 2 daughters. He's been entertaining and connecting with audiences for over 20 years and teaching professionally for 8. With a who's who of clients, including New York Islander Pro Hockey Organization, Steinway Pianos, and JetBlue Airlines, his knowledge of performance and creativity is second to none. A former and current record holder, Jimmy has appeared on local and national television. His creativity has enabled him to educate and entertain at schools, colleges, and corporations. Whether his message is catapulting creativity, personal prosperity, or peak presentation skills, Jimmy's innovative approach to creativity constantly leaves his audiences in awe. Jimmy has filmed instructional DVDs on performance and presentation skills. He's written numerous articles on the art of marketing and psychology of performance and creativity. The demand of his expertise on topics has resulted in him speaking in New York, Las Vegas, and numerous other locations. Jimmy is the presenter's presenter. So again, please welcome Jimmy Leo to our program today.
Thank you very much, Terry.
You're very welcome, Jim. So tell us, how did you get started in all of this?
Long, interesting story. But it starts with a job that I had that was a fantastic job as a bellhop back at a hotel. And I had it all. I had the great job. I was making so much money. I had this great fiance at the time. We lived in her apartment. And unfortunately, I had a big mouth. When I saw something wasn't right, I was sure to let people know about it, even if it was my own boss.
Mm-hmm.
So the downside is when you tell your boss enough times that something isn't right, eventually it leads to bad things. I ended up losing that great job. Went home, complained a whole lot to the fiance. Ended up losing the fiance because we lived in her apartment. I lost the home. The replacement job was a terrible job I hated as a sanitation manager within a supermarket, and I ended up back at home with the parents because it paid so little. So the key I discovered was when you keep focusing only on negative things, all you're doing is bringing more negativity towards yourself, which was the case with me. And it was a real downward spiral for me. So, I had a lot of lousy things start, and as a result, I reached a point where I wasn't pleased with myself and decided it was time to do something. Now, I have epilepsy. I take medicine for it. There was no turning to a bottle to drink in my depression.
Got that? Okay.
So when you are desperate, you take up desperate measures. 2 months earlier, her brother had shown me some balloon animals, and I thought, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, a grown man playing with balloons. So believe it or not, I now Out of desperation, picked up some balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Started just inflating them with a pump and shredding them to get the anger out, because I had that attitude that I think a lot of people have at various points in their life of this life that I have is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than fix it, we'd rather just sometimes complain about it.
Okay, great. So, you started making these balloons. Now, is that how that evolved into uh, talking in front of groups? How did that kind of work for you?
The balloons were made as just little animals
Uh-huh.
eventually, and they were going into green trash bags and they'd get thrown out. The whole purpose of that was to keep me from getting worse, from spiraling further downward into this
I
depression that
see.
I was in.
Okay.
I had a relative who said to me, "Why don't you go out and just, give them away to some kids?
Mm-hmm.
You're making them anyway. Instead of throwing them out, give them away." So I thought it was crazy. I thought it served a purpose, and she said, "No, this would be better for you. Trust me, try it." I did, and I discovered something remarkable. When I was there, I had these kids line up, first a couple, and they wanted these balloon animals for me, and I just handed out these little balloon animals, thinking nothing of it myself.
Uh-huh.
It changed them so much. Their eyes lit up. They smiled. They leaped in the air. They were so thrilled and excited. And the amazing lesson I gained from that day was you cannot service others positively and leave an impact and still maintain the selfishness necessary to remain negative.
Oh, excellent lesson. Wow, I can see how
Right.
that would carry forward. Okay. So you're making these great balloon these balloon are animals for children, and
Hmm.
you're starting to feel really good internally about what's going on and how you're giving back into the community.
Right.
So what happened from there?
Well, I did what anybody would do. Somebody said, start a business doing this on the side. And I said, awesome, I am all over this. So I started doing it on the side. And a bunch of other entertainers came up to me and they said, you're really good with this balloon thing, Jim.
Mhm.
I said, thanks. They said, but you're not doing magic or face painting. He said, I know, I like doing balloons. They said, no, 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 no. You need to do magic or face painting. I said, okay, but I want to remain entertaining. They said, magic and face painting is entertaining. Oh, and you have to dress like a clown. He said, I don't want to. No, no, no.
Mm.
You have to. I said, okay. And you have to hand out stickers. I said, how is that entertaining? And they said, no, it's what you have to do. Everybody does it. It's what you have to do. So I did it because, quote, everybody does it.
Got that.
You would think that because everybody does it, it's the right thing to do. How can so many people be wrong? Here's what's interesting about that. If you're not following what you're interested in doing yourself first and foremost, if you follow others and what they tell you you're supposed to do instead of what you're passionate about doing, you lose sight of yourself. I became as miserable as I was before I even picked up that first balloon.
Oh no. So that's not a good thing.
Wasn't a good thing at all, but I sat back and it caused me to do what everybody should do, sit back and reevaluate myself and
Mhm.
just really take a good look. Shakespeare once said, know thyself.
Mhm.
And really important guy, really important words, and it's something we so rarely do. So when I sat back and thought about it, I took the stickers and threw them out, and I felt very empowered. And everybody should take the time to do that. Just do things in your life that make you feel empowered. It doesn't matter if somebody else tells you you should be doing something. You should really sit back and ask yourself, am I enjoying this? Is this something that's having a positive impact on my life? Is it causing me to have a positive impact on the lives of others? I followed up from there. I started throwing out the face painting and the magic and all the things. Now, the magic was tough. I could have worked half the time with the magic alone, made twice the money,
Mhm.
but I didn't enjoy it.
Mhm.
It's about enjoying what you do. It's about finding what you're passionate about and following through with that passion. So I focused on balloons. Now, once I got to that point, I sat back and then I decided to rev it up a little bit. And I said, all right, well, what else am I passionate about? And is it possible I can blend those things with this other passion of mine?
Okay.
Before I knew it, the comedy came out, and then
Mhm.
the interactive presentations. A long time ago, long before Universal Studios, Blue Men Group was actually off Broadway.
Right.
And I saw them way back then. It
Right.
had to be nearly 20 years ago. And I actually ended up being on stage and part of the show. And I discovered the power of blending a presentation. Instead of having that line between you as the performer and the audience, I discovered the power of making the audience the part of the show, an important star within the show. And it no longer becomes a me and them, it
Mhm.
becomes an us. And that's where I started understanding the power of the presentation.
Okay. I got that. Okay. We'll talk about the power of the presentation in just a minute. If you are just joining us right now, my name is Terry Borg. You are listening to Go Mind Your Business. My very special guest today is Jimmy Leo, the Creativity Concierge. If you have any questions for Jimmy, you can reach him at any time. His number is 727 597 7274. And you can visit his website. It's packed full of information, and you'll find it at www.creativityconcierge.com. So, Jimmy, let's talk a little bit more about making the audience become part of the show. How were you able to like integrate that so that it was a show that made sense for your audience?
The important thing to me was a few details. The first one was find things the audience can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
I was amazed how at the time I was working with an audience that consisted of children, but years later, now that I'm in a different genre, a different market, the lesson remains the same. It doesn't matter who your audience is. You need to make sure you're connecting with what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my case at that time, it was what kind of stories can they relate to? What kind of fairy tales? How can I take what I do and incorporate that into the fairy tale? How can I bring them up and have them wear balloon hats, masks, costumes, whatever, and have them become a part of the show? Now, here's the dynamic part. In doing it that way, everybody wants to feel important and special, Terry. Everybody.
Correct.
So I made them feel like $1 million. Okay? Their parents would see this, and their parents felt like $1 million. So this had a real ripple effect of, just for lack of a better phrase, positive energy. And it was great because it enabled me to now take these shows, which were standard stories, and now I could start adjusting them my way. I could work my comedy in. I could put in balloon props where I wanted to. More than that, I also would make it my business to look at who it was that had my audience. Now, my audience was children, and I wanted to have specific messages. Now, I wanted to get in and do these shows for libraries and schools. However, I had to really sit back and ask myself a very important question that any business person in any business should ask, and that is, what are the needs of my client? For the libraries, they were big on literacy, pro-literacy. So I started designing shows that weren't just entertaining shows. They had to have a message that was pro-literacy. Schools were very big on anti-bullying. So suddenly my school shows were pro-literacy and anti-bullying. I took some stories that were already in existence that the kids knew. I also created some stories myself. And the important thing was to have a dimension of physical and verbal interaction with the audience during the show while conveying the messages. So everybody got to be a part of the show, not just a few select ones on stage. There were key verbal phrases that needed to be said, and they would come in at that point and they would say certain things. I would cue them. So everybody was in my show. It was a blast.
Mm-hmm. Right. I know I've been a part of some of your shows, and they're a tremendous learning experience. But I think the older that we get as people, the younger we want to be. So being able to pretend to be in that story, and be the princess or be the superhero that's come in to do whatever the lesson is to be learned.
Mm-hmm.
By talking to our child, it's amazing what you're able to accomplish.
It is. It feels really good because what I noticed, really, one of the first reasons I started doing the messages was because I would look at things that I knew these kids needed to see or hear or realize or be aware of. And a lot of times they would hear it from their parents or even their teachers at school, but they weren't being as receptive to it.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that when I showed up and I would start speaking with them or doing my show or whatever the case may be, they were extremely receptive to me. And I just saw it as an obligation on my part.
Mm-hmm.
It was something I needed to do. I needed to step up and convey messages that they weren't hearing from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happened, it just became a lot of fun.
Right. Okay, I got that. Now I know that you also teach at a school. How are you able to fit speaking around your, being a teacher, or is it kind of like related?
It all relates. When I was
Okay.
an entertainer, I was an educational entertainer conveying a message on a stage, and the presentation was delivered in a very entertaining manner.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was there was a natural segue into being an entertaining educator.
Okay, great.
And so I still brought the entertaining elements of myself and my personality into the classroom, but it was important to me to attain a higher level of what I'm going to bring to them.
Okay.
So I wanted to be able to leave a legacy and have them learn lessons of life in the classroom with me on a daily basis that they could pass on to their kids later on. Not more than just, where to put a question mark in a sentence or a paragraph. I want them to understand why high school is going to benefit them in the real world, or why middle school is going to benefit them in the real world.
Okay, I got that. So the message where you're of who you are at the current time is Creativity Concierge. What does that mean exactly?
That's been a 3-year journey, believe it or not.
I bet.
I did an entertaining performance for a community center, and I'm just walking around doing my comedy and connecting with the adults through the comedy and doing the balloons for the kids. And the kids love the balloons, the adults love the comedy. Everyone was having a good time. And a complete stranger walked up to me and whispers in my ear, "You're completely missing your calling." I didn't know what he was talking about.
Right?
I said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You're a speaker." I said, "No, I'm a balloon guy." He said, "No, you're a speaker. You just don't realize it yet. You're a speaker."
Uh-huh.
He's like, "Look at the way you interact with the adults. Look at the way that you're connecting with the kids." He's like, "You're bringing messages to them." He's like, "You're a speaker." I said, "No, I'm being funny." He's like, "Yeah, that's part of speaking. You're a
Right.
speaker."
I got that.
And it wouldn't dent my head. So I said, "Look, I know what I am. Who are you?"
Right,
He just
right.
said, he extended his hand. He said, "Hi, I'm David Glickman. I'm a professional speaker."
Wow. Okay.
So when a professional speaker steps up and tells you, "Hey, you're a speaker," you take the
You
time to
listen.
stop and look at it.
Sure, I got that. All right.
So
Great.
the journey of 3 years kind of went, and it became me re-examining everything I was doing as an entertainer. And it suddenly was the realization of, hey, I'm also educating them. And that does come into the classroom. And that's how that sort of segued in. But more than that, I'm bringing these life lessons forward. And that's not something you usually see in a classroom. Maybe there's something to this speaking thing that this guy was talking about. So the process started. I went to National Speakers Association and joined, and I joined Toastmasters. And National Speakers Association teaches the business side of speaking, and Toastmasters teaches the mechanics of speaking and leadership, which was great. I needed all that inside me, and it also helped me sort of become, I was kind of like in this cocoon. I
Mhm.
was this caterpillar. I went in a cocoon. I had no idea what the end result was going to be, but I knew it was going to be completely changed and different. Now, I came across a gentleman named Delatoro McNeil,
Yes.
thinking this is just another speaker out there. And he had a boot camp he ran.
Mm-hmm.
I was told by someone, you need to go to this. This is you. This guy will help you. It's a boot camp. It's 3 days. By the end of this 3-day boot camp, your mind is going to get blown. But more than that, the confusion you're feeling inside about where you should be will be gone. I thought, okay. But I'm a guy who sits back and thinks in terms of, I don't like to part with $1.
Sure. Okay.
It took my wife. She is an angel. She just looked at me and she said, look, if this speaking thing is going to make you happy, if impacting others' lives positively is what's going to make a difference for you, then you need to go do what you have to do. You can't look at a dollar sign. You
Mhm.
got to look at what's going to come out the other end.
Right.
I went through this boot camp, and by the end, this guy took one look at me. He's like, look, you're creativity. You're screaming creativity. You don't
Mhm.
even realize it because it's so close to you. You can't even see it. And it was right between my eyes. Could not see it myself.
I got that. Okay.
So once I started really looking at the concept of creativity, then it was a matter of, all right, let's run with this. Now, I joined the coaching program he offers as well, and it was the best experience I've had and continue to have, because it's important to surround yourself with people who are better than you. And in doing that with him, he helped me see things I didn't see myself, and things that I would never see if I continued surrounding myself with people who loved me the way I was. Have you ever been there, Terry? Have you been
Mhm.
there in a position where you want to surround yourself with the people who just think you're the most awesomest thing on the face of the earth? You are angel food cake.
Of course I do.
Well, of course you do, right? Because it feels good
Sure
inside.
does.
But how much
But it doesn't
learning
stretch you
happens?
to grow at that
Does it
point.
make you
No.
grow? That's right. So you
Right.
get that, Terry,
I
because
do. I get that because
you're
I live in
brilliant.
that place.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Right.
But so many people out there just don't get it,
Mhm.
And I was in that position. And I realized, as hard as it was, I needed to step away from everything I knew and had connection with. And I needed to put myself in a place of complete unawareness. And that's what I did. And I kind of left myself to him, and I said, look, here I am, and this is what I know. But you need to shape this into what you see. I want to see your vision that you see when you look at me. And now I'm at a point where I see that. So that's where Creativity Concierge came from. Creativity Concierge is the title I gave myself because initially, Creativity Consultant was taken.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to call myself. And I thought, well, this stinks. It's not available. I can't call myself that. And then it was kind of, all right, so I thought about this backup of Creativity Concierge. The old me would have analyzed and overanalyzed, resulting in stagnation.
Mm-hmm.
The new me understood action needs to be taken. You got to take action in life. If you don't, Terry, you just sit there and you go nowhere.
Correct.
It's better to take the action, make the mistake, learn from the mistake, and adjust.
Right. But you know, when you take the action, the universe bends.
It does.
And it responds to whatever you need it to bend into.
It does.
It's amazing to me that every time, if I sit at home, I dictate nothing. But if I take action, and I don't know, and if, you know, from what people have shown me, if I take that action and it's bold and it's on purpose, the universe bends to accommodate so much more than you even thought possible.
Absolutely, because what happens is, even if you don't recognize what's going on that you're taking action on, even if it doesn't result in the direction that you wanted it to, you're still having an impression in a positive way on those around you, and that comes back to you. So it's pretty awesome. I tell people a lot of time, I meet people who focus on themselves and looking out for themselves. Then I see other people who look out for the needs of others.
Right.
And I've talked to those people who are sort of on the selfish side, and they can't understand that second category. And I try to explain to them, if you focus on taking care of yourself, you got one person coming back at you appreciating you. If you focus on taking care of 10, 20, 30 other people, you got reciprocation from 30 other people.
Right. Got that.
If I got to choose, I'd rather have 30 people looking out for me and having my back compared to just one.
Sure. Oh, no, that's brilliant and a great message. Again, we're speaking with Jimmy Leo, the Creativity Concierge. If you have any questions for him, you can reach him at 727-597-7274 or his website, www.creativityconcierge.com. I'm going to take a quick message right now so we can have a word from our sponsor. But when we come back, we're going to learn more about the 7 pillars of creativity. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Go Mind Your Business. My name is Terry Bork. If you're ready to have a press conference for your business, give us a call today at 813-863-1452. My very special guest today is Jimmy Leo, the Creativity Concierge. If you have questions for Jimmy, give him a call at 727-597-7274 or visit his website directly at www.creativityconcierge.com. So, Jimmy, let's talk about the 7 pillars of creativity. Can you share with us what those are?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Creativity is an amazing concept. And first, it's important to understand creativity. There's 2 kinds of creativity. There's the creativity that's internal and that which is external. Internal creativity operates mostly off a Rolodex of experience, the experience we have. So we kind of keep creativity internally in our head. And whether it's the experiences of ourselves personally or other people, we have that knowledge there of which we can grasp from. And if we take a couple of things, experiences, or more than a couple, and combine them in a way that's never been combined before, that's your first method of creativity. Second method is a lot more unique. Second method is something that needs to be tapped into at a much deeper level. And the second is the external creativity. It kind of surrounds us all the time. The best way I could describe it, because people think I'm nuts when I describe it, if you ever go in a room and you put on the light, you can see throughout the room. If you go to the window and you part the curtain and you let in the sunshine, it'll have, a ray of sunlight coming directly in. And you can see where the ray of sunlight comes in and the area just to the side of that. And what you notice is the light coming in from the outside is so much brighter. And what you also notice is within that ray of light, there are little particles in the air. Now, when you close that curtain, you don't see that stuff, but it's still there. What we need to do is tap into external creativity by allowing ourselves to be receptive to it. It's much like those little particles out there. If you just lead your daily life with your typical routines and rituals, you don't allow yourself any kind of critical thinking or allow yourself to kind of be more receptive to things out there, to be more open, to be more open-minded. What happens is you just stay within your typical rut. When you open yourself up, whether it's through meditation or any means where you're just kind of relaxing, that's when creativity starts flowing into you.
Okay.
So my best expression that I can use is when you find yourself going to bed and you're sort of half asleep and half awake. Have you ever had that moment?
Oh, yeah.
And you start having those crazy dreams, the really, really nutty ones that are just out in left field, and you wake up and you think, why was that in my head?
Right.
That's creativity coming in.
Okay.
You've allowed yourself to be in that spot, that perfect spot, where you're now completely receptive to it. And so it just comes flooding in at you. The floodgates are thrown wide open. It is rushing in at you hard and fast.
Okay. I got that. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 7 pillars. What are they?
Now that creativity is there and in place and understood, and you need to understand that we need to tap into creativity to avoid routines and rituals of life. 7 pillars of creativity run severe parallels to creativity itself.
Okay.
They benefit creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And they are change, organization, focus, fulfillment, envisioning, education, and impact.
Okay.
Now, it's not necessarily in that order, but that's how I remember it.
Okay.
Because if you take the first letter of every single one and you take that I for impact and you turn it into an exclamation point, it becomes the word coffee, which happens to be my favorite beverage.
Oh, there
So
you go.
it became an easy way to remember it for me.
Got it. Okay, great. Now, I know that you talk a lot about these 7 pillars in a book that you've written called Get Quotivated.
Get Quotivated is a culmination of a lot of quotes that came together first. It was supposed to be just a quote book. And I thought to myself, I could do this and I'll just put together a few and put it out there.
Okay.
A few turned into 166 quotes.
That's not a few, Jimmy. That's a collection.
I know,
It's
but
like the thoughts of Jimmy Leo.
I know. Well, that's exactly what it was, Terry. It was my thoughts. Anytime I thought anything, I would take out my iPod. I'd start recording things immediately. And I put it all down and I said, okay, this is awesome. Now, the next time I met up with my mentor, Delatoro McNeil, I said, listen, I sent the quotes to you and what do you think of it? And he said, oh, that quote book is a beast. He said, now you got to put in action steps. So wait, I'm done.
No.
He said, oh, no. You got to put in action steps so that your readers can connect with this and they can make it their own.
Okay.
And I want to say that I could argue with him on that, but the fact is I thought back to the shows I did where I would bring people on stage and make those shows their own by bringing them into it. And he was right. It was the same concept. And so I realized I didn't want to create a book that people could refer to others and say, hey, you got to read this book. I wanted to create something that people could refer to others and say, hey, you got to do this book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it
very
became.
interesting difference. Got to do it. You got to read it. Yeah, okay. You got to
Read
do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's an action word.
Exactly. So I wanted people to have these things. Now, the nice thing is being an educator, I knew all sorts of formats of graphic organizers and strategies, educational strategies in which people can take content and put it in either a visual format or something that becomes an experiential format and make it much more meaningful, much
Okay.
more interesting. So what I did was I took that and I incorporated that into the action steps.
Uh-huh.
And then when that was done and I had all 166 quotes and action steps, I found myself getting so into it. I had knowledge of these different visual techniques, graphic organizers and whatnot. I thought to myself, this is the kind of thing that we use in a classroom, and this is the kind of thing we use in a boardroom, corporations and whatnot. But why stop there? Why can't we just use this in everyday life? So suddenly these different techniques were something I put at the tail side of the book as well. I put it in the end of the book of just put it there for people to use as they saw fit.
Okay.
So it's got some blank graphic organizers in there and some techniques, just things they can incorporate for fun. Give you a quick example. There could be a quote in the book about the importance of the journey as compared to the destination. That the destination is just a place we arrive at the end, but the journey holds all the lessons, all the opportunities along the way. And if our focus is not on that journey, we miss a lot of lessons and opportunities.
Sure.
Things we're bound to repeat over time until we finally do catch on. So an action step that goes with that might be along the lines of take a destination you normally drive to on a regular basis and drive that same destination again, but this time don't drive the same route that you're driving every day to that destination. Drive an alternate route. In fact, pick 5 alternate routes, all different from each other and all different from the original route. And then take note of the things you're noticing on this alternate route. When you do something over and over again, you're not noticing things along the way anymore. When you do something for the first time, you notice things constantly. When you do it for the last time, you're not going to realize it's the last time. So you're not going to take note then either. But when you do it the first time, you take note of everything. So why not take note of everything? Why not grab as much as we can? So that's an action step that would go with it, is to take the time to, and that's an experiential one. What would you learn along the way? And then how can we take the different things we saw in the 5 different routes and compare them to each other? And then how can we take these things we learned within the 5 different routes and look at them cumulatively and see how they've now benefited us? See how this new knowledge can be incorporated into us, how we can take that new knowledge and service other people with it.
Okay. That's amazing. Okay, great. Now, I know that folks can order your book right off your website, and they can do that by going to www.creativityconcierge.com, and there's a link that's on the website that they'll be able to click on so they can order the book, or they can call you, right? And they can order the book
They can call
specifically
me as well.
through the book. Okay. And then you can reach Jimmy at 727-597-7274. Any is the book available yet online on Amazon or
The book is actually it's available on Amazon.
okay.
But also I want you to know that because I planned ahead, and this is the brilliance of getting somebody who's a mentor, is one of the first things he told me when I put this together was, I wish I had someone in the beginning who told me this little nugget, go get the website of the book title.
Yep.
And I did. So also you can secure this at getquotivated.com.
Get Quotivated. That's QUOTIVATED.
Correct.
Getquotivated.com.
That's correct.
Beautiful. Okay, brilliant. So in here, there's 166 different action steps that folks are taking.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. This covers so many different directions, Terry. I got to tell you, this covers people's personal life. This is going to cover the professional direction. This covers faith. This is going to cover physical. This is going to cover emotional. This covers mental. This even taps into financial. Every element of your life is touched upon somewhere within this book.
Okay, great. So do people have to follow it in order, or they can start with what's mattering to them right now, or do they even know what's mattering to them right now?
That's the most interesting part. A lot of times we don't realize some of the things that we need the most work in. But the fact is they can look at this however they want. It's broken down where there's a quote on the left page, the action step matching it is on the right page. So they can go anywhere they want. They can attack whatever they find most interesting. And that really is where it should begin. It should start with what's most interesting, and if whatever jumps off the page to them, let them start there. Once they start with something that's interesting, they're going to find themselves digging deeper.
Mhm.
And the deeper they dig into this book,
Mhm.
the more they're going to discover about themselves. This is a self-reflection, self-journey. This is to help them better understand themselves, because the fact is we cannot understand those around us until we first best understand ourselves.
Okay. Okay, I got that. Now, when you're out in the world speaking to audiences, I know that you're available to come in and talk to organizations
hmm
and businesses about being creative and about tell us a little bit about some of the talks that you're doing and the education you provide.
A lot of companies
Uh-huh.
lose sight of the important things.
Okay.
If you look at any company on any given level, from middle management, upper management, or employees, there's such a strong force of routine within the company. And that's understandable to a degree. The problem is routines and rituals, whether it's personal or professional, are designed to free your mind up so it can think creatively. That's the time where we are most able to think creatively. And unfortunately, we allow our minds to sort of shut down during those routine moments, during the points where you're busy going through your emails, or the points where you have some time and you're on the computer in your cubicle and it's just easier to tap into a video game
Right?
than it is to tap into how you can better benefit the company.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to teach people how to develop that interest in
Okay.
further benefiting the company. But more than that, I want management as well to understand how they can empower those employees
Mm-hmm.
creatively
Okay,
to
great.
tap into these skills. I want them to develop a higher level of teamwork within each other, and that calls for creativity. I want them to understand different styles of organization,
Mm-hmm.
because that taps into creativity. There isn't just organization as far as priority.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritization is just one form. There's also things like monetization and communication.
Right.
And these are the elements also that need to be looked at on a subcategory of organization. There needs to be fulfillment, an understanding of fulfillment. A manager cannot just expect an employee to do a task because they're told to. They need to feel a sense of fulfillment within their job. And that's something management needs to understand, but that's something the employees need to understand too. Managers also need to feel a sense of fulfillment. So there's the need to have fulfillment tapped into. Constant education, Terry. We all need to constantly realize that there's education out there for us, and that's how we continue to grow as people. That's how we continue to grow as employers and employees. That's how we continue to grow as companies and as individuals. So we need to tap into that. Impact. You want to make an impact at your job? Everybody wants to grow within their job. Everybody wants to grow in their lives, but everybody keeps doing what I did years ago. They listen to what everybody else is doing, and then they follow that path. You just become one in the herd that way. Look, if you want to cause an impact, if you want to get noticed, if you want to rise up, if you want to rise above, you need to do things completely different from how everyone else is doing it. Hence, creativity. Become outstanding. And you become outstanding by standing out. And that's the power of impact.
Oh,
Should I
that's
keep
brilliant.
going?
No,
There's
I
more.
there's more, but I just want to stop there. To become outstanding by standing out. I just think that is so brilliant.
Thank you.
That's great. Keep going. I'm just like that one. I'm gonna
I-
put that on Facebook.
It's
No.
always been my favorite. It's always been my favorite. But change, too. Change is another thing. It's amazing how companies look at change as such a negative thing, and employees look at change as negative, and people in general. But the fact is, the two factors we fail to consider is, first of all, change is inevitable. Wrap your head around it, folks. It's out there. You're going to have to deal with it. Change is
Right.
coming, like it or not. The key is, if you ever look at when a storm is coming and you look in the air, you'll see the birds are flying. They're flying in a specific direction as a group long before it hits. The animals are moving long before it hits. And why is that? Because they're aware, they've developed an awareness for subtle changes. Subtle changes are the things that are going to be little breadcrumbs that lead to the big change, that let you know in advance something huge is on the horizon. Prepare yourself. And a lot of people try to look at change as that negative thing, and as a result, we don't see the smaller changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the big change comes, we're floored by it. We never saw it coming, even though the signs were already
Always
there
there.
all along.
Right.
And then we see it as a terrible thing. Well, the fact is, it's not a terrible thing. If I looked, as I did, at that broken engagement, oh, by the way, that fiance years ago broke up with me. If I looked at that as a terrible, awful thing, as I did, I would only invite more awful things. Okay? But the
That's very
fact that,
true.
but the bigger picture dictates that had she not done that, I would not have met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have two beautiful daughters.
Mm-hmm.
I would not have this amazing journey that I've taken since that point.
Mm-hmm.
If I saw her today, I would thank her for that. That thing that drove me crazy and sent me into a depression back then, in a bigger picture, served a much more positive influence to my life and the lives of others around me. So we need to look at change in that context as well. Change is so much more than just a bummer.
Right.
Change is there to make you a bigger, better, stronger person. Change is there because, yes, it might be a negative thing for you now in a certain level, but that same negative thing for you here is a much bigger positive thing for someone else. And that's what we need to consider too. And that's what I want to bring to companies and corporations. That's what I want to bring to individuals, is get them to change their mindset towards how they see change in and of itself.
Okay. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So now when a business calls you to present a keynote to their organization, you're able to just understand the needs within the organization and what they're trying to convey, and then you're able to match maybe a keynote around that, and then
Absolutely.
incorporate maybe your workbook or your Get Quotivated book to help them with some action steps.
Oh, Terry, there's more out there besides just Get Quotivated.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Did I forget to tell you?
Oh, yes, you did. Okay.
We have an ebook coming out, and
Okay.
that's going to be called Quotivate Your Creative Marketing.
Okay.
Okay, and that's an ebook that's on marketing techniques and strategies. It's a slew of marketing techniques.
Uh-huh.
The problem is when you have businesses of a specific type,
Uh-huh.
they look to other businesses of that same type. They see how those businesses are marketing, and they usually use the same method.
Right.
Tapping back into the concept of impact and being outstanding and the purpose of standing out, I want to take people through that ebook and get them to understand if you use a different type of marketing than your competition, you stand out.
Mm-hmm.
In standing out, you get noticed, and getting noticed, you gain success
Mm-hmm.
and follow through with your new clientele,
Mhm.
because it's much easier to keep happy clients than it is to build new ones.
Mhm.
It is much easier to let them build your clientele for you through word of mouth than it is to have to reach out to new people all the time. I never understood in my whole life why a business hires some kid, pays a minimum wage to go outside and spin a sign pointing inward to their business.
Mhm.
I've never seen anybody look at that sign spinner and say, I need to go in that store now.
Yep.
Think about it. Have you? Has a sign spinner out on the street ever dragged you into a
Inspired
store?
me. No, I've waved at them.
I wave too, as I keep going by at 60 miles an hour.
Right. That's a newer tactic that I've seen used in the most recent years. That I don't think that's been around like forever, or maybe it has, but I've not been aware of it. And
I just don't think it works that well. There's also other products coming out too. I have put together my 30-day coaching program, which is
coaching.
coaching.
Okay.
That's QUOTE
Quote.
dash
Got it.
CHING.
So
Coaching.
it's a merge of coaching with quotes.
Coaching with quotes.
Got
So
it,
it's
okay.
gonna be an audio program that takes some of my favorite quotes from the book,
Uh-huh.
30, 31 perhaps, and it kind of applies the action steps to go with it, but it puts it in audio form,
Got
which
it.
is great.
Oh, super. What are
So,
some of the other products that are coming out from
I'm
you?
so glad you asked. I am a nonstop person when it comes to that stuff. I have what's
action
called
begets action, right?
action does beget action. Once you start, you know, you
can't stop.
cannot stop. There's Journal the Journey, which is coming out actually in a very short time frame. I would say about one more month, and that's going to be released.
Okay, great.
And there's the Rhodes Scholar recordings. And what's interesting about that one is I decided to create an audio CD that was very different. I did a bunch of thoughts in my head, just concepts that I think about often, deeper level concepts and examples of them. And I have them recorded on my iPod while I'm driving. So the great thing about Rhodes Scholar recordings is it's things you could learn about, but it's done while it's on the road. So you could pop it in and listen to it while you're on the road, but you're going to hear horns honking and tires screeching and whatnot because it was recorded while I was on the road. just a different format.
That's very cool. Well, you take advantage of every opportunity that you have. No time's wasted. You don't have time
Absolutely.
to have any kind of thought other than positive, forward moving thoughts.
Absolutely. One of the stories actually within Road Scholar Recordings is I tap a little bit into creativity. I tap a lot of different areas, but I tap directly into creativity, and I end up discussing. You may have heard of this guitarist named Eddie Van Halen,
Yeah, just a little bit.
just a little bit. The guy is handled as a genius, and he is. He's amazing at the guitar.
Right.
Fantastic. That's what everyone knows. And he created this finger tapping method, and that's what everyone knows. Here's some more information that's sort of backstory stuff that people don't realize.
Hmm.
The actual finger tapping was around before Eddie Van Halen tapped into it. No pun intended. It was first used by a gentleman from the band Genesis, one of the early guitarists. And it was because he had a part of a guitar solo that he had to do for a specific song. I cannot remember for the life of me right now what the name of it was. But making the stretch with his one set of fingers was just too difficult. So he actually brought his other fingers from his second hand into play and just sort of did this tapping. The thing is, for him, it stopped there. It started there and it stopped there because for him, it wasn't about exploring that new technique. That technique was a means to an end, which was get the solo successful. Once he did that with that technique, he stopped using it there. Eddie Van Halen is the one who sat back and said, that's an awesome technique. That needs to be looked at a little more. And he did. And here's what people don't realize. Eddie Van Halen also plays piano. In fact, when he writes all his songs, he doesn't write them with a guitar. He writes them with the piano.
Right.
Now, when you think about a piano, a regular piano, if you lift up the lid to a piano, what you end up with is a bunch of hammers and a bunch of strings. And the hammers bang away at the strings.
Okay.
So it's hammering
Oh.
at these strings. So when you now sit back and think about it, it's an awesome technique because he just started hammering the guitar strings much like the piano strings were hammered. It's a great technique and just one example of one of the many things that's on Road Scholar Recordings. There's so much more. You got to get it. It's incredible stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. You've been listening to Go Mind Your Business here with Terry Bork and my very special guest, Jimmy Leo. Jimmy, is there anything maybe I know that there's a ton of stuff that we can talk about, but we only have so many minutes in our time together today. Anything that we haven't discussed that you'd like to talk about at this time?
The only other thing I want to talk about real quick, and I'll try to make it quick, is the power of failure, which is something that throws a lot of people because they think about failure as the opposite of achievement, and it's not. Failure actually is a subcategory of achievement, and failure is needed to have achievement. People like Thomas Edison understood that persistence is needed, and failure is a necessity. In fact, it's a gift. And we need to have that failure so we can learn. So don't get upset over failure. In the case of Edison, that guy tried 10,000 times to get the light bulb right, and he still kept botching it. But he finally got it right because he didn't quit. You learn enough times, and there's enough material there to succeed at whatever it is you're struggling to reach. We are so full of potential. We are awesome, but we look at things the wrong way sometimes. Failure is not an enemy. It is our friend. We need to look at it as something that provides us with lessons to be learned to make us better people, to help us grow as individuals. Opportunity is hidden, again, like that little bits of dust in the sunlight. Opportunity, like little Easter eggs hidden. It's out there for us. There's so much opportunity, especially here in this country. This country offers more opportunity and wealth than any other country. And we need to go out there and reach it. And oddly enough, you can figure out how to understand opportunity and wealth just by getting my book, Get Quota Vated. It is all in there.
Okay. Fabulous. So we'll have to run out and grab that. Get Quota Vated. You can find that out on Jimmy's website, which is creativityconcierge.com. The book and so many other great information for folks. If you have any questions for Jimmy, you can give him a call at 727-597-7274. Jimmy, I am so excited that you were able to join us today. It was so wonderful having you. Can't wait to have you back. I know that we'll be hearing a lot more from you as we move forward.
Thank you, Terry.
And I wish you great success with the book, Get Quota Vated, as well as all your other coaching programs that you have out there.
Thank you very much. Look at your success. I love your success, Terry. Look what you got going on here. The radio show and Extreme Marketing Concepts. You got some great stuff going on. So I'm just trying to follow in your path, if you will.
Okay, I think we feed off each other, right?
Well,
There
thank
we
you.
go.
I'll take that.
Okay, great. If you're ready to have a radio show, a press conference of your own for your business, feel free to give us a call at 813-863-1452. And if you're looking to put your business in front of the hungry herd of buyers, Extreme Marketing Concepts can absolutely help you with that. You can reach us also at 813-863-1452. Thank you again, Jimmy, for joining us today.
Thank you, Terry, for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for joining us today here at the Talkwad Studios. My name again, Terry Bork, and I remind you, have a great day and go mind your business. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Go Mind Your Business with Terry Bork, presented by Extreme Marketing Concepts. If you want to drive more traffic, dominate the market, and crush your competition, find out how by visiting our website, www.extrememarketingconcepts.com. And join Terry next time for another episode of Go Mind Your Business.